writer, author, journalist in Kingston for the past 25 years, and I guess in terms of the arts scene, I for a few years in the early 90s wrote a music column in the Wake Standard, which covered the local music scene. And a few years later, I can't remember exactly how much later, but I was the arts and entertainment editor at the Wake Standard. I had the pleasure of working with Greg, and I learned a lot about what's going on in this town in terms of arts. And as Greg and everyone else has said, it's amazing how much is going on. It's incredible, and it's impossible to cover it all. Especially in times of shrinking budgets, and when the best way of getting a wig these days seems to be a petty criminal or a sex offender. So I wouldn't advise that as a means.
Speak a little bit louder.
Oh, sorry. Okay. The way to get my attention from a writer's point of view is to give me something worth writing about. And I want to thank Jane for saying basically everything I was going to say, which is if the event itself isn't that, doesn't leap out off the page, off the press release or whatever, give another way into that story by describing the background of the director, or was hiking in the mountains and saw a bird get, an eagle grab a snake or something. That gave him the idea for his play. Tell that story in the press release, because reporters are fundamentally lazy, okay? And we want it handed to us on a plate sometimes. And if you can do that, we will love you. And so if you can possibly do that with your event somehow, just as Jane said, that she found a way to advertise the arts and letters thing by focusing on Alex Jansen, that's a great way to do it. And if they pitched it that way, good for them. And you need to do that too. That'll really help. The other thing is, given that, as has been said earlier, that the audiences can be very limited for certain types of events in Kingston, and so it might be wisest, instead of trying to snag the traditional media, which may not be very productive in the long run. You should know your own audience. Know how many people you can realistically expect to attract to your event. And if you do a number of these over time, you're going to have a pretty good idea of how big your audience is. And keep an email list and write, target your audience directly. And you don't even have to use the traditional media. Maybe you might be wasting your time and your money by trying to, snag the wig or get some TV coverage or something. I'm not saying that's always the case, but it might be the case sometimes. The other thing is, you could be your own media. I mean, that's very easy to do these days. That's just another way of saying have a website, have your email list, and take advantage of those technologies any way you can. Like make a little video. I mean, I could make a video of myself right now just by going like this, and then I could put it on YouTube in 25 minutes. I mean, it's very easy to do that stuff, and you don't need $1 million to do it. So use those technologies because they work, and you can put it on YouTube, you could put it on Facebook, you could do a Twitter link. There are all these things that don't really cost anything, and they can be hugely effective, and you can target them. So, well, I'll stop. That's me for now.
Well, great ideas. Thanks, Alec.
Hi, I'm Meredith Dault, and I'm at the near end of this line, which puts me in this interesting perspective because you've all said amazing, intelligent things, many of which I would love to have said myself. But it's also given me this amazing perspective being relatively new to Kingston. I've only been here for just over a year. And just to look at this breadth of, for a relatively small city, to have this kind of representation at a table like this is pretty astounding, actually, and well worth celebrating, remarking on. Anyway, I'm actually a little bit in a different position from most of the people here because I'm a freelance writer. I moved here from Halifax, where I was working for CBC Radio and as a freelance journalist. And so at the moment here in Kingston, I'm still freelancing, but I tend to freelance for national magazines at the moment, and not for anyone local, although I'm open to it. So, for example, when it comes to the arts, I would write for magazines like Words and Music, which is a magazine that SOCAN puts out it's the Musicians Union magazine. I write about art for Canadian Art and for Border Crossings and C Magazine and people like that. The problem I have, the problem that I'm sure you've all encountered being in a small center, is that a lot of the major publications come out of Toronto and come out of big cities. And one of the problems, of course, as a writer, and also as someone trying to sell an event, is that it's sometimes hard to get the attention of the national media in a way that your event sometimes would merit. So that's definitely a struggle. Freelancers can be helpful in those cases because we often have the connections already established with the media that you want to reach. That goes for CBC as well. You know, I think there's one CBC person in Kingston who's called a stringer because there is no Kingston headquarters, but she's a resource. She becomes a resource to try and feed the national programs, for example. Or I, as a freelancer, become a resource to try and feed those national programs. But it's the same dilemma that you've heard all the way along because funding is always an issue right across the board. And again, it's trying to tell Toronto that there are cities outside of Toronto that want attention. And I say this as someone who's also run film festivals, worked in art galleries. Like, I have also had to sell my own events and my own, you know, gallery, my own things to the media as well. So I know something of the struggle of both sides. So, I don't know, probably I'm best just to be here to answer questions.
Thanks, Meredith.
All right, I'm Irina. I'm here representing a radio station, CFRC, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about what we are, and then maybe later during the question period we can talk more in detail as to what our advertising rates are, how we can cover your events and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna read from my notes so that I don't forget all I want to say. So CFRC is a local campus and community radio station. We are based on Queen's campus, and we are the oldest campus-based radio in the world. We've been here since 1922. We have over 150 volunteers, and they contribute regularly to programming and operations. We broadcast 24/7 at 101.9 FM, 90.9 cable, and online as well. So we have an online presence and we stream live. Most of our shows are volunteer run, and they're run by volunteers who are passionate about what they do. And we're not a commercial radio station, and as a result, like, our advertising rates are very low because we're not interested in making a profit, we're interested in covering our operations costs. So that's a great plus. We do have staff, and we have different departments such as music, spoken word, news, sports, and ad production. We recruit and train volunteers 3 times a year, and basically any member of the community can actually be on our radio station. So if you have an idea for a show, if you want to have a show devoted to arts, then we can definitely accommodate that. We also organize radio and sound-oriented events in the community that we offer either free or for a small fee. And ultimately, we serve Kingston and the student body by offering you, programming by volunteers and by offering you events listings and good advertising rates. And we can talk about that, I think, during the question period. And my job is the business manager, and so what I do is I do outreach, sales, and fundraising.
Okay, thanks, Irina. That's a great start. Wealth of information already, and there's more. There's 2 people that sent their regrets. One from Profile Kingston and another from Chum FM, and they've asked me to read on their behalf. So I'm going to do that, and then Colin Wigden from Cultural Services has a few things to say, and then we'll open up for questions. And at that point, it'd be helpful if you could stand so everyone can hear you, and it'd be great as well as you could say, who you are, if you represent an arts organization or not. But we'll have a good, 20-minute question period, and then we can have an open discussion. Because I personally, and Arts Council, and we're documenting this, would love to hear what has worked for the people in this room, because there's so many experts in this room that do a great job promoting the arts in Kingston. So I'll start with Profile Kingston, and there's 4 magazines that the editor, Bonnie Golom, is that the right?
Golom.
Golom, sorry. She has dropped off of the Arts Council, and you're welcome to come up and take a look and maybe take one. And so she says that Profile Kingston is a longtime supporter of the arts. Riverview Publishing Inc. raises awareness and regularly exposes regional talent to Kingstonians and visitors through our publications, Profile Kingston and Summer in the City. Although Profile Kingston's mandate has always been to acknowledge individuals who have added to the quality of life we all enjoy in Kingston, special attention has been directed towards recognizing outstanding contributions to the arts, whether from visual artists, performing artists, or friends of the arts. Profile Kingston and Summer in the City are creative ventures bringing together talents and skills of many. Bonnie goes on to say that they're keenly aware of the need to encourage members of our community not only to support the arts, but to participate as well. Our publications regularly include editorial columns and departments that encompass numerous arts and cultural events for educational, entertainment, and fundraising purposes, including in Profile Kingston, Where and When, a photographic-based page highlighting upcoming special events, Citizens' Choice, a calendar of workshops, seminars, and lectures, Arts and Culture District, a calendar of performances, exhibits, and other cultural events, Announcing, a listing of recent career appointments or awards, The Kingstonian, a column focusing on volunteer-driven programs and events, Book Launch, a column featuring an excerpt from a local author's recent release, and Profiles, featuring life stories of area residents. So lots there in Profile and Summer in the City. And in Summer in the City, that's up next. Close to Home, a calendar of cultural and recreational activities in Kingston and area, attractions, a close-up look at local and area museums, galleries, and events, and sidebars, including monuments, plaques, treasures, and must-sees. And finally, Bonnie goes on to say, we offer competitive advertising packages for both commercial and nonprofit clients. Various ad size and frequency rates are available. We would also be interested in sponsorship opportunities. So that's something that I'm sure people will make note of. Established in 1985, Profile Kingston is published 6 times annually, and Summer in the City is published biannually in May and July. Their website is profilekingston.com. Highlights our current issue, a list of all our back issues, and links to all the participating advertisers. Their preferred method of communication is email, which I think is almost across the board. editor@profilekingston.com. Our feature articles are prepared 3 to 6 months in advance of publication. For further information on either Profile Kingston or Summer in the City magazines, please contact us directly by email, editor@profilekingston.com, or by telephone 613-546-6723. And that's Bonnie Gollum, editor and publisher of Profile. And then we also have a message from Brian Johnson, the general sales manager at Chum FM. And he says, this is kind of just a brief kind of tips on how to submit something to Chum FM. For us to take anything to air, it has to meet certain criteria. Number one, if it's commercial, that is my domain, that's Brian Johnson, sales, i.e. art show and sale to generate revenue. Number two, if it is of listener interest, that is Sean Whalen's domain, promotions. For example, art show that is free to the public or a fundraiser. If it is news or editorial, that's Shauna Cunningham's domain. And for example, art shows featuring a renowned or well-known artist. And Brian's advice is make it easy for the media to cover your event with clear contact names, web addresses, specific dates and times. Write a compelling media release. Those that are to the point, are easy to understand, and have clear contact follow-up information get more consideration.